So Montreal was great. Road America, I something. We have NASCAR at Sonoma. The Xfinity race was really good. I didn't watch much of the Cup race, or I caught some of it. Uh, Wednesday Night Dash also went to Sonoma this week, and that was yeah. We'll talk more about that here. So this is FR Racing's Garage Talk. I'm DJ Flook.
I'm Erik Richardson.
And before we get started, we want to welcome a new partner to the program. This is FrostBuddy. So go to frracingonline.com/FrostBuddy, FrostBuddy, and learn more about this awesome device. It's a can cooler, it's a bottle cooler in one. Just screw off the lid, put your beer, your Coke. Got my old style tonight. You know, the Cubs have been just god awful lately.
Yeah.
Screw the lid on. There you go. So what makes this guy different than some of the other ones out there is not only does this do normal 12-ounce cans, it will do the skinny can. It does 12-ounce bottles, and it does the 16-ounce. I guess that's technically a tall boy. So 16-ounce tall boy all in one device. And some of the competitors, you actually have to buy a separate one for different sizes. So it's like, why do you want a bunch of these in your cabinet when you can just have one? So FrostBuddy, welcome to the FR Racing family.
And nice thing you can pick up additional lids and use it for coffee or
you put turn it into a tumbler. You can drink your coffee out of it. It's a very great, it's a great device. And it keeps your beer cold, which is the most important part. And when you're in the pool in the summertime outside, you want to have that beer nice and cold, or your Coca-Cola or Sprite or whatever your beverage of choice is.
Then you can't tell what it is either.
That's right. You know what? I saw these things on I think I saw them on Amazon, but they look like Coke cans and Pepsi cans, and they're these thin little sleeves that fit over, and it says like cola on it. It doesn't actually say like Pepsi or Coke, but it looks like a Coke can, and you slide it over your beer. So like if you want to go to somewhere where you can drink a Coca-Cola, but you want to sneak that beer in, we don't condone that behavior, by the way. You can drink your beer, make it look like it's a Pepsi or a Coke or whatever.
And not that I condone it, but I've never done that with a Gatorade bottle with
No,
water.
No, I mean, when I was in college, I had this horrible physics class where we went over the homework and we had to take a quiz, and that was made the class mandatory. And it was at like 3:30 on a Friday. I went down to the convenience store on the corner next to the physics building and grabbed myself a 32-ounce, it's like a 59-cent 32-ounce fountain Coke. And I had my little flask in my backpack, and I spiked that thing with something and started my Friday early. So those were the days.
We do not encourage that behavior.
No, of course not. But yes, I have drank in class before. I mean, who hasn't?
I actually never did in class.
Really? I mean, yes, you had a lot more.
Story.
You had a lot more on the line than I did. I was just another dopey student.
Yeah, you were a number. I think you hit mute.
I did. I went to adjust the microphone and I hit mute. No, I wasn't causing a disturbance. I didn't drink that much in class, but yeah. Anyway, college drinking, fun.
Happens.
But yeah, well, I mean, you remember the days where we smuggled you into the student section for basketball games.
Then they tried to get me in trouble for having a flask, and it was a camcorder.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Then I handed it off and made the usher look like an idiot.
Yeah, one of my friends who I used to go to basketball games with, he skipped this Purdue. It was Purdue versus Wisconsin, and Purdue had been bad. They'd been getting better, but they'd been bad for a few years, and Wisconsin was ranked like 10th or something like that at the time. And Purdue upset them and everybody rushed the floor. And so he missed. That was like the only basketball game he missed in like 4 years. And it was that one. But you
Yep.
were in the student section for that one.
Yeah, I got to rush the floor. That was awesome.
So we
And then
got
I made the paper too.
yeah, your head's in the
We got in the
newspaper.
exponent.
Yep. You got into the school newspaper, and newspapers are these pieces of paper that they would print articles on back in the day. Like, I wonder if the exponent still prints.
Yeah, some people probably don't even know paper, do they?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
You'd
outdated at
actually,
this point.
when you'd go to class, this is what we would do. We didn't have smartphones at the time. We'd get a copy of the newspaper every morning, and we'd sit outside the classroom and we'd read the newspaper before class started.
Something you actually look forward to on Fridays. Or at least it was that way at Evansville, I think.
Well, we got a newspaper every day, every weekday, which was cool.
Yeah, your school's also like 20 times bigger than mine.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's like the 10th or 12th largest school in the country as far as like, total undergrad students or something like that.
Yeah, I
So
think I was one of the smallest Division One universities in the country.
it's funny though, like I went to a bowl game once where Purdue was playing Maryland, and this was before Maryland joined the Big Ten. This was a good
Yeah,
70
they were
years before.
ACC at one point.
Yeah, they're in the ACC. And so we're tailgating in the lot. We're in Orlando and we're tailgating, and someone's like, "Where's Purdue? Is that like a private school?" Like, no, it's public school, and there's 37,000 undergrad students there and another 10,000 grad students. It just like blew the guy's mind. He's like, "So wait, your school's not a private school. It's named after a person, and there's over 40,000 graduate and undergraduate students?" Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The difference is instead of the state or some kind of state funding it was funded by John Purdue to start the college, and hence why it is known as Purdue. But yes, it is a public school.
Yeah, if not for swimming, I probably would have been a grad from there.
And the funny thing is, I didn't want to go to Purdue because I didn't want to go to a 40,000 student school. And I kind of got forced there because of cost and lack of scholarship, and we'll say lack of maturity in the classroom. And I happened to end up there, and you know what? I mean, it was the greatest time of my life. I mean, it was I had so much, it's such a great time there. And I'm like, man, I don't know how if I would have went to that small school I was trying to go to, I probably would have been miserable, and worked out
It's
in the
funny,
end.
I didn't even go to Purdue, but I think I was over there all the time. Pretty much
But it's
every
right
break I was
we
over.
we were, I mean, we not you, but you went to your school, but we were so lucky to have a world-class public institution almost literally in our backyards. It was a 40-minute drive from my parents' house, and it it just, if I knew they were far enough that they wouldn't come bother me randomly, but it was close enough that if I needed to go home to do laundry or get away from campus, or in the one case where I got so sick that I felt like if I'd stay in the dorm I would have died.
You get
But
home real quick.
I got home quick. I drove home with like 103 fever and
I
drove
think I
that 40.
remember that.
Yeah, I drove that 40 minutes home, and I just basically spent like 3 days just in my own bedroom at my parents' house, just dying, and I went back to school. But yeah, it was great. It was such a great situation in the end. But
Yeah, check it out. Boil her up.
got to the final four. I got the final four pennant. Finally snapped that streak. So Montreal.
Yeah, how about that? That was a race.
That was a lot of fun. You got
It had some of everything.
got rain, you got chaos, you got wrecks, you got penalties and fines. Looking at so Max wins, which like this is like the first time I think that I'm not been upset that Max won, because it wasn't like that dominant of a win. So you got Lando in second, George Russell third, Lewis Hamilton fourth, Piastri in fifth. And it's like Mercedes had a great weekend.
Yeah, they had a
Considering
good
how
weekend, and it was
bad they did.
fun It was fun there at the end. They told Russell, "Hey, you can attack."
They just said, just please don't like wreck each other.
Just be smart, but you can do whatever you want.
So in this race, you've got 6th, 7th were the Aston Martin cars. You got Daniel Ricciardo finishing 8th. You got the 2 Alpines, 9th and 10th in the points. Aggressive strategy from Haas at the beginning, going on the blue tire. Everyone else on the green. Almost worked for a while. They were moving up quickly, and then it started drying out.
Yeah, it's fun. They were coming up to their pit stops, and they knew they had more rain coming.
It was
And the track was drying out, and it was fun watching like Verstappen moving out of the racing line. They were finding the wet spots to try to keep those intermediates cool.
But then you
Because
had
that track was drying fast.
Both Williams go out. You had.
Are we surprised on one of them?
I mean, one's almost a guarantee at this point, where it's just like, how much time has Steve got left in that seat?
I think it was right after I texted you. Have we seen the last of Logan Sargent? No. Or will they let him finish? Or do they just move now?
I don't even know who's a reserve driver.
I actually can tell you.
I have I have to look this up. Oh, locked my screen. Who is Williams' reserve driver?
Oh, no.
It doesn't have its own reserve driver. Anyway, call Nicholas Latifi.
As of at least the start of the year, back in February, it was basically to be determined.
Yeah, it says that they don't have one, that they just kind of. Because isn't there a point where they have to like let a reserve driver let somebody else do like FP1?
Yeah, I think it's 5 races throughout the year. They have to have a reserve driver complete at least one practice session. And you can do it at any race.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is fun. You have 3 IndyCar drivers that are F1 reserve drivers.
Isn't Pato Award one of them?
Yeah, he's still reserved for McLaren. Theo Pourchaire at stake, kick, whatever you want to call him. And then Haas also has Pietro Fittipaldi.
Yeah.
Ferrari had a rough day.
Yeah, that was awful. How great Monaco went as bad as. It's just. Ugh.
And Checo got a time penalty.
And Red Bull got fined. It looks like they borrow Mercedes driver if they need to. So Mick Schumacher. Do you think he ever gets another shot at Formula One?
He should.
What's he even doing? I don't even know what he's doing this year. I know he's I guess he is in the World Endurance Championship this year. Oh yeah, so a lot of fun. We got Spain coming up.
It'll be fun to see how it goes.
So on to IndyCar.
The first 10, 15 laps were kind of wild, and then it just got boring after that.
Yeah, it was pretty. Ugh. I didn't even see the start of it because I was watching the end of Montreal. And
yeah, I'd turn over, it's lap 3, and it's like, oh, caution.
Yeah, caution.
Yeah, Armstrong got into the back of Lundqvist, who started onto a pole, and I think Newgarden got payback on Herta from Long Beach.
Yeah,
Probably
he did.
could have been penalized, but he just straight up yeeted into the back of Colton Herta
Yeah, he did.
and spun him. And Herta had a great drive though to recover.
Yeah, yeah, it happened early enough that he was upset too. He was really upset about it.
And when you get driven into the back trying to avoid a wreck and you get into it, that does not make you happy.
Yeah, I don't. Road America, I'm really disappointed in myself. I lived only a few hours from Road America for almost a decade, and I never went.
Yeah, I think when I move, I'm only going to be about 4.5 hours away. So it's tempting to get to a race one day.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's because it's a fun weekend. They have a lot of events going on. I mean, there's something. It seems like something always on the track. You know, there was like Radical North America had multiple events. Yeah, the Indy Next, Jamie Chadwick. Congratulations to her. She's the
Yeah.
first road course woman to win a road course race in Indy Next.
And first woman to win since what, like 2009?
9, I think it was Pippa Mann, if I remember right. Good for her. Yeah, congratulations. She was very interested to see what she's. I mean, she's clearly very talented, and she was
Yeah,
in
and had
the
a podium earlier this year.
Yeah, she was in the W series. You think she's the next one to make the jump?
I don't know where she'd go.
I mean, there's plenty of options. There's always shifting seats, and
At least driving with Andretti right now, there's not a seat.
not at the moment. No,
So I think it'd have to be a different team. Hopefully we
not.
see her get to jump.
David Malukas got a gig.
Yeah, driving for the rest of the season with Meyer Shank.
He had his first time out, and he was doing. They did a test session in Milwaukee with the new hybrid engine, and Will Power said he was really happy with it. And he said, "If he goes, I feel like I can pass with this." So I'm like, that's encouraging.
I kind of wish they would do this at the beginning of the season, not in the middle.
Yeah, it's weird that all of a sudden you're in 2007 or whatever. They switched to the NASCAR switched to the car of tomorrow like late in the year. And
Yeah, they did some test events
and,
leading to it.
well, and I remember I went to the Brickyard 400 that year or whatever, all state 400 or whatever it was called that year. And they were still on the Gen 4. And then like a couple weeks later they brought out the COT and that horrible black spoiler that still gets made fun of to this day, but you know, I mean, it was a major. If it did one thing, it was a major step up in safety.
Yes.
So it's like I can't,
Price safer than what they're driving now.
Actually, you haven't really heard as like the first year of the next gen. Are we still calling it the next gen, or is it now Gen 7?
I think it's more just the Gen 7 now.
So
I still hear both though.
The first year of the Gen 7, there was a lot of hard hits, and we really haven't had as many. And I'm not sure
A lot of it was if the car backed into a wall, their supports were just straight and very rigid, so it sent that shock through the body. But they changed those to where the pieces will crumple. It'll still maintain a lot better within the car, but they have better crumple zones on those parts that have really reduced some of those impacts.
And, I remember in 22 when it was Texas, and remember Cody Ware had that where he crashed, hit the wall in like turn 4, and then ended up hitting hard in the
plowing
crashed
into
the pits. And like you could just tell he was shaken up getting out of there, and but oof, they've come along. They've come away. I mean, that's obviously safety is the most important thing, but I just
and for the most part, you can tell these cars are pretty good. just based on last year at Daytona, watching Ryan Preece flip in the backstretch.
I remember I was at a birthday party, and I'm sitting in the it was at like one of these trampoline parks. My kids were at a birthday party for one of their friends at school, and they did like pizza and cake in the party room, and I'm sitting in the corner watching that, and the crash happens, and they're getting ready to sing "Happy Birthday," and I just go, "Oh my god!" And everyone just like turns and looks at me, and I'm just kind of like, "You should see what I just saw!" Like, yeah, that was oof, that was rough. But yeah, he walked away. Remember, a few years back, was it Daytona or Talladega? One of the super speedways where Austin Dillon, his car just it like flew over everybody into the catch fence. I think it was Daytona. I don't think it was the 500, but like his car like just obliterated, and everyone just it was it was a hold your breath moment, and the pit crews and all the safety just started running out to him, and they climb under there, and everybody standing up going like, yeah, thumbs up, thumbs, he's fine, and he got out on his own, and just unreal. Like, there was a time where if you saw a car fly up into the catch fence, you're just like, oh boy, that's not good. That's not good. And
So I don't think we really touched on Sunday. Another big piece of IndyCar news that happened over Road America weekend.
Which one? Is it involving a certain driver having to be benched?
Yep. Hopefully we don't anger
yeah,
particular fans.
hey, you know what? Signs you've made it is when people start coming after and threatening you. Yeah. Augustin Canapino from Juncos Hollinger Racing. They sat him.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of tried to hide it a little bit of, well, he's just not in a good mental state with all this.
They're letting him back though. They're letting him
He's
finish
going back for Laguna. We'll be in the cars for the rest of the year. Announced earlier in the week.
They keep referencing this is the third time this happened, and it's like Callum Ilott, his teammate last year, was the second one, but I don't. Who was the first one?
I guess it was a couple times with Callum Ilott.
I don't remember the first one, but
yeah, I don't remember as well. But yeah,
it was poorly handled.
I have a guest. My cat is getting hungry, so she's gonna be a pain right now.
I was just like, "What was that?" I'm like, "Oh, cat." See, that's a nice. See, you got a real cat. I got the fake cat right here with the.
It's funny. I'm being stared at right now.
This cat, actually, I got this before my kids were born, and they're like, "Oh, you bought this for your kids when they were born." I'm like, "No, I didn't." The English Premier League, the soccer league, had this horrible graphic in like 2017 where when they'd use it as a transition, and they had like an outline of the cat, and the cat would do this like zoom in. And so the Men in Blazers show on NBC, I think it's still on. They bought this cat from Toys R Us, R.I.P. Toys R Us, and they made fun of the transition graphic to the point that the Premier League actually abandoned it. But they called this thing Crap Cat. And what they would do is when they would transition to things, they would take the cat and they go, "Ooh." This was the cat, and I found it at Toys R Us. So I bought it like 5 of them. And I sent my dad one. I kept one, or I bought 4 of them. And then I ended up giving one to each of my kids. So, but this one's mine. This is my cat.
My cat is making an appearance.
Get out of here, cat. Remember that cat when the last time you were at my house, which is now years ago, Remember that cat that would hang out around my house?
Caught the cord.
Yeah, so there's this outdoor cat that would hang out around my house all the time. And we thought like the previous owner of my house abandoned it, and then we found out no, it's just they said it was just the neighborhood cat that just like hangs out on people's properties. That cat's still kicking years later. I mean, it was pretty young back then when we first moved in, but every once in a while the doorbell camera goes off at like 2 in the morning, and you see the cat jump off the neighbor's wall and walk past our front door. We have a neighbor who actually like we could never figure out whose cat it was, and we had an idea. We thought it was the people who live over here that own that cat, but we never like really cared enough to figure out who owned this cat. And somebody put on next door like, hey, this, does this cat like have a home? Is it just an outdoor cat? Because it looks pretty well fed and groomed. And so I have this neighbor who's one of those neighbors, and she's like, I'll figure it out. And so this is like 5-6 years into living here. I had no idea who owns this cat, even though it's, and like a day later, there's a reply on Nextdoor. Yeah, I figured out who it's this house over here. They own it. The cat's name is AC, and it was short for Alley Cat. And I'm like, this cat hung out at my house pretty much every day for 5 years, and I didn't know its name. And finally, my neighbor knows his name. It's like, yeah, his name is AC. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's good. I know the neighbor's cat now.
Yeah, so kind of going back after our little cat sidetrack there.
That cat cameo.
I'm glad IndyCar and McLaren said something. Like, this isn't the first time, dude. Like, you're liking and doing stuff like that. And then I thought his kind of comment was almost even tone deaf.
It was. And then liking posts on social media, it was. I mean, there's only one way to get through to people, and
Sometimes
it's money.
You gotta bench them.
It's money. I mean, Uncos Hollinger lost their technical alliance with McLaren. You know, they were running the papaya stripes on the front, and before Road America, they were peeling them off because McLaren ended the technical alliance with them.
Yeah, and even I think the rear fenders, if McLaren had excess sponsorships, they would have gone on to the Juncos cars.
Yep. That's how you get people to pay attention, is money. You cost people money, you find them, you take away revenue, you take away sponsorships. That is the only way to get their attention, generally speaking.
And I know it's not an entire country or fan base. It's only a small group. You're gonna have them. But as a driver, you just can't engage those. And if you see those coming out,
you gotta condemn it.
Even if, let's say that Porsche was making something up or kind of exaggerating a message that he got, you need to be able to support your fellow driver and like, hey, guys, we had a racing incident. It's fine. We still had a great finish. Move on. It
didn't end up that way. So we'll see where things go from here. I mean, it would suck if you had a team end up folding or becoming super non-competitive as a result of this, but you know what?
It's
we're in the big boy pants.
And not sure. Yeah, they just had a great finish with Grosjean in 7th, but other than that, and even on their Indy Next team, you can't really say that they're being that successful this year.
All right. The mute button covered up the sneeze.
Because even on their Next, they have a standard back marker. And then in the last race at Detroit, they had a driver get disqualified for failing to yield to a flag.
Oops.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention long enough, or I haven't really paid that close attention to next, but it's like, that's interesting. So last news on Indy before we move on to NASCAR is reportedly their new TV deal is with Fox.
Can't say I'm happy with it.
No, if the production's been a lot like NASCAR on Fox, yeah.
They're
It's
gonna
like,
lose fans if they do it. Might help maybe in the long term, just keeping money coming into IndyCar, but there's a large potential for just fans.
it's like you're making strides. I mean, IndyCar's problem has been when they've been stuck on like USA Network or CNBC or something like that, and you find out like 360,000 people watched your race, and you put it on NBC, and you're at 1 million. It's just still not great, but it'll be interesting if because with the new NASCAR schedule, they have it split between Fox and Amazon and Turner and NBC, and even though it's a smaller, the Fox scope is smaller than it has been. How is that going to impact scheduling? Because rumors are that IndyCar was promised prime Fox network space. So you're gonna bump NASCAR to FS1? Are you gonna schedule IndyCar races on Saturdays so you don't have them competing? Yeah, it's like, are you gonna go and direct compete NASCAR with IndyCar at the same time? Are you going to put people in that decision to have to watch one or the other? I don't know. It just, or like you suggested, is Fox preparing to ultimately lose NASCAR in a couple of years?
It it has not been received well at all. And after every race, there's just constant criticisms.
My biggest beef is I can't stand the cartoon images. Like, I don't know, like it was cheesy the first year, but it's just like they keep doing it year after year. It's like, just use the real photos. That
Yeah.
drives me nuts. And there's other people on Reddit that have expressed the same. It's like, oh, good. Can't wait for IndyCar to go and have the comic book drawings of the drivers.
Yeah, if you want to do like one race a year to have some fun, go for it.
I don't know.
Not every week though.
The other news on the Fox front is the NASCAR Race Hub, which has been airing since I believe 2009, has aired its final episode.
Bye bye.
That's a
Hopefully
bummer.
something replaces it.
That's a bummer because I enjoyed watching that. I don't know who would. It was fun to watch that, and and you have like they put on the best of Radioactive, and I still miss the show where it was. I think it was on Showtime, where they had like the NASCAR weekly show. And I don't, I've never really ever subscribed to Showtime on TV, but like anytime I was traveling, and they have Showtime in the hotel room I was at, I always seemed to like time it that I got to watch the show, and they'd play the uncensored radio from the cars, and it was it gets vicious out there. It gets really
Yeah, it
vicious.
does.
And
Instead of Race Hub, it just needs to be known as Garage Talk now. Talk about the cars and happenings in
can
racing.
we should do that. There we go. Okay, as soon as the trademark expires on Race Hub, we're stealing it and we're rebranding the show.
We should. Why not?
Yes, we are waiting, and we will rebrand as soon as the trademark is released, which could be, I mean, they could sit on this thing for years.
If it gets dropped, we should take it.
So on to NASCAR Sonoma. I really enjoyed the Xfinity race. It was a good race, but SVG at the end trolling Austin Hill in his celebration was like, that was like next level. And if you missed it, SVG celebrating, and all of a sudden Austin Hill puts a single finger out his window, and then it turned into this full smoke show and drifting behind him. It was like, oh, you want to do that, huh?
I'm sure you're saying, hey, nice job, number one.
Yeah, you're number one today. Oh,
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
yeah. That was definitely it. Then Austin Hill asked about, you know, insulting the keyboard warriors in the process. And
yeah, not making friends.
thing is, though, like, I've met Austin Hill. He's good with fans. Like, it's a lot of these drivers who come off like just kind of horrible in the car, or just bad in with, you know, when the microphone is handed, you know, in front of their face. It's the complete opposite. Like, when they're around the fans, I mean, he was super chill with the fans. He's like, you know, he's nice to my kids. It's just like, that was, so it's like I can't rag on the guy too much.
It's similar to like Santino Ferrucci.
Yeah, Ferrucci's a perfect example of that. He's great around the fans. Drivers can't stand him.
Put
When
the
you
helmet
let
on
him,
and things change.
it's like, have you ever noticed when Santino Ferrucci is about to be interviewed, he has the same smirk on his face right before they hand the micro. You know, they cut to, you know, here's Kevin Lee standing down there. It's like, I'm with Santino Ferrucci as he's standing right next to him with the same exact smirk every single time.
Yep.
It's almost like he's thinking, what am I going to say that will anger someone right now?
And then Kyle Larson won the race on Sunday. The first two stages basically were caution laps.
Yeah.
And then after stage 3 started, it just ran to the end.
Didn't expect that.
No, not at all. Martin Truex ran out of gas with not much left. Kyle Busch, I think, also ran out of gas, and he was mad at Ross Chastain.
Yeah.
It's the last lap. Of course you're going to dive in.
Yeah.
He would have done the exact same thing if you switched those cars.
Oh, yeah.
You're racing for a top 5. You're going to bump and bang. Come on.
Yes, indeed. What's coming up? Oh, Iowa.
They are not looking forward to racing.
No, Kevin Harvick. Did you hear his comments on his show?
I haven't heard his. I know Chris Bell is not looking forward to it. Basically just calling it a single lane track.
Yeah, they repaved, for those who haven't seen, they repaved the bottom half of the track. And Harvick's like, why? Like, either let it run on the old pavement, which he thought would have been great, or just repave the whole track.
Awesome.
And they did do it. Like, what? Like, is there somebody at NASCAR that's like, let's see how we can ruin this?
I think the leadership of NASCAR is trying to see how you ruin NASCAR right now.
There was an article too on NASCAR and with the charter systems, and they said, like, you know, Hendrick off the record and Joe Gibbs and Penske, like, would you break away from NASCAR and start your own league? And they basically said no, that would.
NASCAR just owns too much infrastructure.
They have too much control of too much of the track. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to turn into a glorified late model series? You're going to go run those
you
tracks?
Could run 2 races, road course and oval at Indianapolis.
Yeah, we got that one. But yeah, so much of the tracks are under NASCAR's control that it's like they couldn't break away if they wanted to. And with the amount of work it would take to organize a new series, like, it's just not feasible. Like, you have to get tracks and promoters, and you got to have the governing body oversee it, and then you have to have a television deal. And you know, if you break away from NASCAR, you're not going to get a major deal.
I think something like that could be done, but it would have to almost follow the PGA and the Live.
That's
it.
They're gonna have the
Golf
Saudis
tour.
come in. The Saudis will come in and dump a huge sum of funds in to make a racing league.
I think you have to do something like that to really get NASCAR to take notice. And then you do that for a year or two, and then you can come back and negotiate.
I
It's
don't
what
think,
I'm hearing
yeah,
too. The negotiations between NASCAR and the teams are just going south
this
fast.
is, yeah. Do you think we get to a point where you got a top tier team boycotting an event?
It could be possible.
I think there's too much on the line.
For the teams that would have to do it, it would be hard unless they got full support from their sponsorship as well. So it's more than just the 3 or 4 drivers and crews.
And that complicates matters because this isn't, the 90s, 2000s where every week Jeff Gordon's running the DuPont, Dale Earnhardt was running the the GM Goodwrench. It's nobody runs the same paint the entire year.
Yeah, you don't really have a full season sponsorship anymore.
So yeah, you got to coordinate all of those. You also run the risk.
Those teams, they have their drivers in the playoffs, and you could very well have NASCAR go, yeah, we're not granting a waiver for that stunt.
Yeah.
And now you take your driver out of the playoffs. There's money, there's sponsorships.
You could fold the team if you're not careful.
And if somebody like Hendrick does that, and then they lose sponsorships, they're already operating in the negative.
You watch Roger Penske, for example, and you look back at what he went through in the 90s in IndyCar and what the split did to that sport, that you could argue they still haven't fully recovered from that.
Yeah, they're still
30 years later. And it's like, we're going to take our ball and we'll go home, and you have 2 competing leagues going on. One goes bankrupt, then they evolve into Champ Car, and they go bankrupt, and then just begrudgingly unite under the IndyCar banner once again.
Yeah, and if you did do something like that, you would have to have the support of every single car in the garage.
And the thing is, they don't have the tracks like CART did. CART went and they ran events at Long Beach. A lot of
airports.
Yeah. It's just, you look at the CART schedule and they had some funky tracks that they would visit. And the problem with IndyCar is that the IndyCar had the 500 and nothing else. And CART it had everything except for the Indy 500. You remember they'd race at Walt Disney World and Charlotte and Atlanta and New Hampshire and Richmond and Pikes Peak and just and Texas was in there, mixed in there, which almost got numerous people killed. Look at Kenny Breck.
Yeah, it was wild for a while.
It's just, I don't think NASCAR, I don't think they are in position to pull off a split. And then on top of that too, you put the manufacturers in a tough spot where you have Ford and Chevy who've been with NASCAR forever. And Toyota's been around for pushing 20 years now. And it's like, what are they going to do?
I think you look at it, go after like Dodge and Honda.
Yeah, you got Dodge. Well, Hyundai has also made a push to get into some of these motorsports. I forget who, if it was IndyCar or who. But it's just like, you can't just split and go start your own league tomorrow. It's not going to work.
I think there's a way to do it, but it'd take a little bit.
I mean, you'd be doing races at Portland and Willow Springs, and
which is for sale, by the way.
Yeah. You want to buy Willow Springs?
I wouldn't mind actually. Middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
That
it's
could make it
literally.
fun.
I have.
Rockingham's in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah,
literally. I've been
yeah.
there.
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, at North Carolina, it's at least a smaller state. I mean, California
It's massive.
pretty massive, and it's just like getting out to Auto Club Speedway from Los Angeles was a challenge, and going up to Willow Springs was also a challenge. Plus, the area's not the nicest place I've ever seen.
Whole field of dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, well. Oh, so we are coming down to the last couple of weeks before we are giving away Tyler Reddick's fender from the 2023 Bristol Dirt Race.
Put your entries in. We want to see it on your wall.
Will it be yours? Still haven't figured out how I'm going to package this thing.
Not going on my wall.
Nope, not going on mine either.
And maybe you'll get lucky and have somebody win it that's in Phoenix.
They get to hand deliver it. Well, it's funny is some of the applicants I know live in North Carolina, so it's just like this thing was shipped from North Carolina to Phoenix, and then it'll it could end up back in North Carolina again. It's like should have just had the guy hold on to it and then ship it. Yeah, I don't think you would want to sit on it for 2 months.
Or send it here to Michigan. That way it could have been in the middle of everything.
So we've got that coming up. So frracingonline.com/contest. Get your bonus entries on social media, following on social media, YouTube, TikTok. Yeah. Following Stadium Scene on YouTube. Hey, and by the way, guess who's back on Facebook?
Yeah, about time.
My ban has been lifted after about a month, little over a month and a half. They sent me a apology, basically saying we reviewed you again and realized you weren't infringing on anybody's intellectual property. And I first thing I did was kind of dunk on Facebook on I don't post on Facebook much, but I felt the need to announce my return, which I'm sure 99% of people on Facebook had no idea I was gone. I announced my return and I said, hey, it's the first time in my life that my name and intellectual have been used in the same sentence. So thanks, Mark Zuckerberg. So we're back. And if you notice, Wednesday Night Dash was back on Facebook this week. Stadium Scene TV has been broadcasting Garage Talk again as well on Facebook. So we're more or less back to normal, which is nice. And yeah, that was a struggle. That was just unacceptable. But it's resolved now, so we will.
Yeah, good to be back.
It is good to be back, and yeah, head over to @Racing Online on Facebook, give it a follow. You can do it through the contest, you get that bonus entry, and I'm kind of burnt out from driving. Just this was a bad week. We didn't even talk about Sonoma, but
Sonoma.
I ate it on lap 2. I had to take a tow and it ruined my night. And once I got back out there, I had a decent night after that. I was just already 2 laps down, or I was like 1 7/8 laps down when I exited the pit, and just sucked. So it's just like shutting down for a week. We're not doing an episode next week. I'm going on vacation. We want to think about this for a week. We'll come back on Michigan, and we'll start working on get the Indy Racing World Series. We're going to announce that schedule and be fresh and ready to go for July.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to 2 weeks Michigan. Gotta go out and perform well on my home track. Or new home track, I guess.
Yeah, your now home track. Like just as Phoenix is my home track now.
We'll see how it goes. Should be fun.
Yeah, especially I'm very interested to see how the cars run in traffic with the new models that iRacing has released. It didn't seem to impact things too bad.
No, it's not gonna be bad at all. I did a week 13 trucks at Michigan and it was fine. It was a lot of fun. I had a good strategy. If not for a late pit stop, I would have driven through the field.
I have to say, I
late
gotta
yellow, I should say.
I gotta commend the Wednesday night dash drivers. So you always the two things that we do differently is we do open qualifying and we do no stage break. You know, it's a road course. Driving a truck on a road course is not the easiest thing to do to begin with. And everyone did pretty well. I probably ended up in the worst shape out of anybody because I just slid right through a turn and just toasted my car, my truck.
Yeah, we had some self spins, but cars were pretty good at avoiding them. Or I guess the drivers were pretty good, and it was really fun when qualifying opened up. A lot of trucks went out all at once. But we did kind of a Formula One stagger. Nobody was doing anything crazy on the out lap.
It was
and they
good.
were
Good
backing
etiquette.
up. Yeah, we were backing up, giving them a lot of space, kind of knowing who's in front, and a lot of room out there. So it was really good.
Of the people that completed times, I had the slowest time and I was like 3.5 seconds off. So it's like 3.5 seconds. And I didn't push it in the qualifying. My strategy was I'm just going to go out there. I'm going to clock a lap and we'll see how it does. Because if you bump a wall, you spin, your lap is voided. And nobody did that. Everybody clocked a time except for one who was having connection issues. But everybody who had a stable connection out there clocked a time. It was a great job all around tonight. I'm really impressed with how that went. So we've not had a lead this big before, and Sonoma's not a big road course. It's only 1.99 miles.
What, 15 drivers out, which is the biggest road course race we've had. So it was a lot of fun. But I'm looking forward to the final 3 races. Back to the ovals.
Yeah, I won't be at Charlotte, so
yeah, Michigan, Charlotte, and then season finale at Vegas.
Vegas under the lights, and then we're gonna go Xfinity. That was published. Got a lot of good stuff coming up, and
it should be a lot of fun.
You're gonna do the Glen, the 6 hours at the Glen this weekend.
Yeah, it sounds like both teams are doing the 8 o'clock Eastern start time. We'll have a 2-person GT3 car and a 3-person LMP2.
And we will not be broadcasting the event. So if fortunately I will be on the road, so I will not by the time you see this, I will have been on my way.
It should be a lot of fun. Lots of stuff coming up.
And for those who watched Wednesday Night Dash since the beginning, you probably remember my brother Kyle infamously caused one of the more hilarious crashes I've ever seen.
Oh, that was awesome.
Nothing will ever top that, where he panicked instead of braking and went back out on the track. And it was Chad Winstead was leading, and he saw him, and he last second got out of the way, and the car right behind him didn't, and just plowed right into him. And I still have the image of Kyle was driving the Pepto-Bismol car, which is appropriate
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you see this Pepto-Bismol car like turned upside. Fantastic. But yes, the reason I mentioned that is I'll be seeing Kyle, who I haven't seen in person in like 5 years. So that'll be fun.
That'll be good.
I gotta find that image. I have it saved somewhere, but that was anyway. frracingonline.com/contest. Get in there, get entered, follow us on social media. You know the drill.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you here probably a couple weeks, and take care.
We're getting closer to episode 100.
Oh yeah.